You are listening to the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to show number 18. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 4th of February 2006. And today I'll be getting soft on you because the main segment of the show is about soft skills. In my announcements, let me start out with iTunes, to be precise, the iTunes review section. And my thanks go to OC Rob D for writing a great review about the Project Management Podcast and giving me 4 out of 5 stars in the iTunes podcast directory. Thank you very much. If any of you listeners out there would also like to write a quick review and give me your rating on the show, go to the music store in iTunes, find my podcast and click on the Write Review link, which you can see on the right-hand side. I have again received some wonderful listener feedback, this time from Anthony Bloor out of Manchester, and he thanks me for my great podcast here. And every email I get with constructive criticism and constructive feedback like his is encouraging me to continue this show. So please keep your emails coming. I really enjoy them. Well, about sponsorship again here. Does your company have a project management tool or maybe a project management book, a project management seminar to promote? Well, then why not become a sponsor of the Project Management Podcast? Being a sponsor of the show will immediately get your message into the ears of thousands of project managers worldwide at a cost which is definitely lower than what you would pay for an ad in a trade magazine. Simply write to me at pmpodcast@gmail.com and I'll be happy to discuss a sponsorship with you. And finally, I wanted to send congratulations to my friend Thomas Schmidt in Germany, who recently passed his PMP certification. So, herzliche Gratulation, Thomas. Alright, and now let us move on to the 2 segments, helpful resources and project management in the news. I have 4 helpful resources for you today. The first one is from Sabrina Mancini-Johnson. If you recall, she was my interview guest last week on the show. And this one is straight from her website, and it's a 2-page PDF document titled The Top 10 Characteristics of a Successful Project Manager. And, this is quite a good document if you need to tell people what it is that you're actually doing, or if HR in your company is looking for project managers, if your boss's boss's boss is telling you, what does a project manager do? I mean, take out this document and give it to them, because it gives kind of the great overview of what it is that we project managers really do. I mean, it's not Gantt charts and making sure that deadlines are met. It's inspiration of a shared vision. It's a good communicator. You need integrity, empathy, competence, team building skills. All of these items are very neatly explained here on these 2 pages from Sabrina. The second helpful resource I have for you, or I have for myself actually this week around, is a document from Project Perfect. It's a part 1 of 2. Unfortunately, it's only part 1 at the moment, and it's called Developing a Test Strategy. One of my projects has recently just gone into the testing phase, or will in a couple of days actually, and this would have been great if I had this about 3 weeks ago, and of course I would need both the part 1 and part 2. This has been written by Neville Turbit from Project Perfect. I think I've mentioned him 3 or 4 times already here, so he's producing rather good content, and this is a a humongously long document on how to develop a test strategy. This is good if you have time on your project, if you can really focus on creating a test strategy, how you want to test things, who's going to test things, what environments you're going to test this on, what the test scripts are going to be, what you're going to do for retesting, etc., etc., etc. So this is an excellent template, if you wish, for anybody who needs to develop a test strategy. In my case, I looked at it and I thought, wow, it would have been great if the previous project manager on my project here had used this and had created something useful like that. In my case, my test strategy is about 5 sentences and a table in length. So yeah, I wish I had this a few weeks ago. The third helpful resource I have for you is from CompTIA, and it's titled the CompTIA Project Plus Glossary of Project Management Terms. Now this is a 16-page document which contains, well, yeah, a glossary of project management terms. For instance, what is performance reporting? Just picking one here. Reporting to the stakeholders to provide information about the project status, progress, accomplishments, and future project performance predictions. Lots of P's here. Well, this document is a good alternative resource for, shall we say, the PMBOK. It's not as exhaustive as the glossary of terms in the PMBOK. The PMBOK is 44 pages in total, focusing, of course, on PMBOK terms. I assume Prince 2 has a similar glossary, but what I found is that these 16 pages here, the language is less complicated. You actually understand what they're talking about. It's easier to comprehend. So my idea here is, if you're looking for an explanation of a term, yes, use the PMBOK, use the Prince 2 glossary. Also use the Weidman's comparative glossary. If you remember maxweidman.com, I really raved about his website, and he also has a glossary there. So use these glossaries that are out there, and also use this CompTIA project management glossary in order to figure out what are these terms if you have to explain it to somebody. The PMBOK Prince 2, they are more focused on the technical aspects, and this one here is simple, easy language. The fourth and final helpful resource I have for you today is something for beginners. It is part 4 of About.com's Project Management 101. Part 4 is talking about managing cost, money and profits, and it's a very easy to read for beginners explanation on how to manage cost, money and profits on your project. The first 3 items in this series here are part 1, overview of project management, of course. Part 2 was talking about manage resources, and part 3 talked about managing time. I do not know where they're going in the future with this, but this is definitely going to be something, because About.com keeps their content online forever and ever. So in 5-6 years, if you have something that you need to give to a beginner, this is still great content that you can do. Also, at the end of each page, they have suggested reading, they have related articles, and even most popular videos, but I'm not sure if online music stores is something that we really need as project managers. So there you have it, the 4 helpful resources of this week. And now let's continue with the news. I have 6 news items for you today. The first 3 I'm going to focus on, and the last 3 I'm just going to skim over quickly. First one is titled UCI, Irvine's Extensions Advanced Project Management Simulation Course offers chance to blah 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 blah. Goes on and on and on. Has a humongously long title. What it basically boils down to, the UCI, the University of California, Irvine, is offering an online project management course. Big deal, you may say? Well, it is for me, because I am now on the UCI's advisory committee for project management, and we're going to have our first meeting on February the 7th, and I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback there, what it's like to work together with a university on their advisory committee on project management. I'm actually looking forward to this. So it's interesting for me to see that they're actually putting out press releases for all of their project management seminars that they have. The second news item is titled Business Consultant Wirick Pens Book on Project Management. Well, that's really nothing new. There are dozens of books on project management out there. But he is actually taking The Apprentice, Project Runway, and Trading Spaces television shows here in the United States, and he is saying that, well, if you're watching these shows, you're actually getting a lesson in project management. So, very interesting to take the idea that what you see in a television show is project management and writing a book on it. News item number 3 is going to interest all of you Prince 2 professionals out there. It is titled Project in a Box Launches P2 ABC, the first Prince 2 styled method for smaller projects. Well, more or less says it all. This company here, Project in a Box, is releasing a set of templates in the Prince 2 style for smaller projects. The reason why they did it is their feedback, they say, has always been that Prince 2 is great to run projects, but it's focusing on humongously large projects. There's nothing out there for small projects. Now, frankly, I'm not a Prince 2 practitioner, and I also have not yet taken a look at these templates. They can be bought for £50, and the website that you can go to is p2abc.org.uk. So that's the letter P, the number 2, the letters abc.org.uk, and you can buy these templates for £50. And if any of you out there are buying these templates, I'd appreciate it if you'd let us know whether or not these are worth the £50. News item 3 to 6, just quickly here. The PMI is doing a 250,000 member race. So anyone out there can guess, when is the PMI going to reach its 250,000th member? If you are a member of the PMI and you log on to the website, you will automatically be redirected to their page where you can guess when they're going to do that, and I entered my guess, and I'm probably going to be way off. We'll see. Item number 2 is titled CIO'S expect to hire project managers in 2006. This is from PM Forum, the breaking news, and they're talking about the fact that CIOs, they did a survey, and 54% of them say, that's the highest number, that they are going to hire professionals in project management in the year 2006. That's good for all of us. And finally, the last of these 3 quickie news items here is Global PM Forum reports now available. The PM Forum is a yearly get-together of professionals from around the world, project management from professionals from around the world, and it's in its 15th year now. It's been hosted all over the world by various project management organizations. So the PMI's hosted it, the APMI has hosted it, everybody who has a name in project management has hosted this, and this has now been hosted in, where was it, Delhi in November 2005. I think I mentioned something about that in a previous podcast. Anyway, and their reports are now available for download. So if you're interested in this, go ahead and download it and take a look at it. And that was the news and helpful resources for this week. As always, if you want to read any of these in detail, go to the website at pmpodcast.blogspot.com, where you will find links to all the items that I have just mentioned. Now we're moving on to the Project Management Podcast's Tip of the Week. As always, the background music comes courtesy of music.podshow.com. Today you will be hearing the song called Vegas Hard Rock Shuffle, and it is by the Tennessee, United States guitar artist, Charlie Crow. So hold on to your seats here. The Project Management Podcast's tip of the week is: how do you tell your customers that you're not going to be able to deliver every single feature that they have requested on day one? Well, the first thing you have to realize is you never tell a customer that you cannot deliver. Instead, you tell them how and when you will deliver. And the tool that I have found best to communicate this to the customer is a simple table. In column 1 of this table, you will put the list of features, a list of requirements, or list of functions. It really depends on your project regarding which items you're going to list in this column, and also how detailed you're going to do this. In some projects, I listed feature groups. In other projects, I listed individual features, but most often it's really a combination of both. And then in columns 2, 3, and 4 of that table, you show the anticipated delivery date. Delivery 1 is in May, delivery 2 is in June, delivery 3 is in July, something along those lines. As an example, for instance, in constructing a house, you would list that all the painting on the house will be done on March 1st, except painting the garage door, which will be done 2 weeks later. Almost more important than the table itself, however, is that you get the customer's buy-in for this. I do this in 2 ways. When I first meet with my customer and we talk about requirements, I let them know that I will create such a table for them. In this way, they are aware that this is coming. Then, once we have sort of a semi-complete list of these features, I start bringing the list to the meetings, and I let the customer define priorities. What do you need first? What do you need second? What do you need third? In that way, it was the customer who decided when things will be delivered later on down the road. This table will also enable you to negotiate with the customer when you need to switch things around. Someone's on vacation, can we do this 2 weeks later? Instead, I'll give you this feature a little bit earlier. Something along those lines. Of course, if you look at this tool, this simple table, from a project management technology, methodology point of view, what you're really doing is you're creating a kind of a customer-facing work breakdown structure with delivery dates. But don't call it a work breakdown structure unless you know the project management know-how of your customer. Just call it your list of delivery dates or something similar. My customer on one of the projects I'm currently working on is a junior project manager, and in his case I actually took our real work breakdown structure and color-coded it. Now, when I print this work breakdown structure, the chart, the graphical overview, each box has a color showing exactly when we plan to have which feature available. But in most cases, the table with features and delivery dates is the best way to go. And that was the Project Management Podcast's Tip of the Week. main section of the show today is dedicated to soft skills. So let's start out with a definition here.
The Project Management Podcast's definition.
Well, if you look up what soft skills means in any dictionary, you will find something like this. Soft skills, a set of skills that influence how we interact with each other. It includes such abilities as effective communication, creativity, analytical thinking, diplomacy, flexibility, change readiness, and problem solving, leadership, team building, and listening skills. The goals of soft skill training is to give students opportunity to learn and practice new patterns of behavior, and in so doing to enhance human relations. It's a technical one here. The definition that I found and kind of worked on and rewrote a little bit and that I like best is something along the lines of that soft skills are a collection of skills that enable you to being able to get people's commitment to work towards a common goal and purpose. So there you go, the definition of soft skills. Now then, why do projects fail? Well, if you look at all the chaos reports that have been published in the last few years, there's always this humongous number of projects that fail. It's getting smaller as the years go by, but it's still fairly large. Now, why is this? I mean, it's probably not always because of technical issues. It's probably usually a lack of communication or issues on the political level within the companies, within the projects. So that shows you that 90%, remember, of a project is communication and only 10% is, well, administration really. So everything that you learn, work breakdown structures, Gantt charts, the critical path, all of this is really not the major part of what we project managers do. 90% of what we do is communication, yes. And project management, here I go again, the P in project management stands really for people management. So that means people skills are extremely important on your project. Project management is an art. It's a discipline. It's not a hard skill that you can really go to school and learn everything about. Well, yes, you can learn about the way work breakdown structure, about the Gantt charts. But in the end, bringing it all together as a good project manager means that you need to have a knack, a very big knack, for the soft skills that are not really all that tangible. Being great in your field is really just one thing, but being great in the soft skills arena will really help you just so much more to be a wonderful project manager. For instance, one of the commonplaces that you always hear in project management is that if you take a great engineer and let him or her manage a project, it will only do one thing. It will destroy a great engineer in your company. Well, that's a commonplace. That's hearsay. But my wife's company here in Orange County, California, has gone through exactly that understanding. About a year ago, they decided that engineers from now on will also take on project management responsibilities. And the company has seen the negative effects that this decision has had. 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was finally decided that they would ramp up their PMO once again with an influx of new project managers, and that these project managers are going to take over the projects from the engineers so that the engineers can go back to what they're great at, finding good, sound technical solutions on the project. This little story about these engineers shows you that being great technically just doesn't help. You really need to have a good feeling for soft skills. And a good feeling for soft skills means something different for everybody, because your soft skill level should be appropriate to your career. A junior project manager versus a senior project manager, for instance. If you're a junior project manager, you will need technical skills. You will be employed on a project to help to work on the administration, to create the schedule, the work breakdown structures, to write the status reports. You will be focusing mostly on these very technical hard skills. But as you grow, as you become a senior project manager, more and more you will notice that you will slip out of this position of the, almost administrative project assistant, and more you're going to have to employ your soft skills. Utilizing the right soft skills not only depends on where you are in your personal career at this point, junior or senior, but it also depends on where you are at in your project. What's the current project management phase that you're in? Are you in initiating, planning, executing, controlling, or the closing phase of your project? And I found a very good white paper on this. It is titled Accommodating Soft Skills in Software Project Management. And it comes to us from two gentlemen. One is from the University of South Africa and the other one from the University of Technology in Mauritius. And I will put a link to this white paper also up on my blog. And what you can see here in Table 3 in this white paper is quite clearly where they say which of your soft skills is most important in the project. For instance, you'll see that communication skills are most important when you execute, control, and close. However, flexibility and creativity are more important in initiating and planning and executing. So it really depends where you are at in your project as to which soft skills are most important. Now, let's take a look at these soft skills, the list of soft skills that I have here, and let me give you my thoughts about these. Well, the first one that I have here is interpersonal skills. To me, this is one of the major soft skills that you need to have as a project manager. You need to be able to build rapport with everybody on the project. Okay, everybody is probably not always possible, but do your best to build rapport with as many people as you can on the project. Because the better you get along with your customer, with your project team, with your sponsor, the better you will be able to get their buy-in, to get their commitment on this project. Next on the list is team building. A project is usually managed by a group of people, by a team. And as a project manager, you have to have the knack to bring this team together. And that's just as difficult as it sounds. There is no silver bullet that will help you to do this. Every team is different. Every person on every team is different. And you have to find a way of integrating everybody into your team. Communication skills. Okay, I've said it about 10 times today already. 90% of your job as a project manager is communication skills. The interpersonal skills, the team building skills that we've already talked about, is about communication. Next, you have problem-solving skills. Show me a project that doesn't have problems, and I'll congratulate you. Every project that I have worked on so far has had problems at one moment or another, and you have to be flexible, adaptable enough to find solutions for these problems. Then there is negotiation and conflict management. Negotiation is simply talking to the customer about the delivery dates, about costs, conflict management. Customer isn't happy with what you have delivered. You have to find a way of soothing this problem, of coming to the customer and trying to find a solution that is beneficial to everybody. So this is not something that you will learn the first time. I ran into a few walls when I was a junior project manager, trust me. It's something that you learn over time. Then, of course, there is time management. Time management is probably one of the key elements, again, well, they're really all key elements of the soft skills in project management. Making sure that your schedule is on time, making sure that your own time is well managed, that you can help your team members to stay on track and on schedule. Highly important. And then, of course, there are others like flexibility, adaptability, self-confidence, and working well under pressure. Happens in every project as well. The ones that I've listed so far, these are kind of the standard skills. I have a few ones that are a bit out of the box here as well. Attitude. Your attitude on a project, to me, is a soft skill. When I take over a project, I take charge. I take responsibility. I want this project to succeed. So my attitude is always to give 100% to the customer. Presentation skills. You will always, as a project manager, have to present something. My way of solving this was I joined a Toastmasters club where I learned how to give good presentations. Email writing is another one that goes along presentation skills almost here. How many times have you received an email and you thought, what is this person trying to say? Or when you read it, you understand exactly what they're saying, but you just have to groan at their style and it's just a bad email. So email writing skills are important. It's part of the communication skills. Honesty is another one. To me, honesty is deep down in my core. I will not lie to my customers on a project. I play with my cards open. I will tell them if there are problems. I will be honest to them at all times, or at least I try to. Then, in the end, there is the desire for self-improvement. And I can tell you, simply by listening to this podcast, you have the desire for self-improvement. And you want to improve your soft skills, obviously. Well, how do you do that? How do you improve your soft skills? Let's move on to training here. If you do a search on Google about soft skills and project management, you will find that most of the results that are returned are about soft skill training. So it's very difficult almost to find good documentation that you can just simply go and read on the web about soft skills. However, soft skill training is not normally part of the academic curriculum. I mean, go to the universities and look at their project management seminars. They're teaching the hard skills. Formal training in companies is the same thing. They will talk about methodologies and how to do this and how to use the templates. The soft skills are a little bit on the side. So training yourself in soft skills is really the way to go. Well, do it with introspection. Think about how, where, in which areas you would like to improve. Look back at how you have communicated with customers, how you have handled the last team meeting. How could you have done it better? Try different approaches. Try a 360-degree feedback. It's a tool with which you ask other people to tell you how they view you in various areas. Ask your boss, ask your coworkers, your friends for feedback on your soft skills. You can also go to monster.com, and I'll put a link to that up on my blog, and what they have is a soft skills quiz. It's 25 questions about your soft skills. Like, how are your written communication skills? Non-existent, poor, average, good, or excellent? And you rate yourself in these soft skills here. And of course, what you can do with this questionnaire is you can use that for the 360-degree feedback that I mentioned earlier. Ask other people to go in and give you their view of how you rate in each of these 25. Well, simply put, in order to improve your soft skills, you have to want to be the best you possibly can. When all is said and done, soft skills in project management are very important, but often ignored. Schools and universities and colleges, they don't really teach it. Project management methodologies focus on templates and processes. Just look at the PMBOK and the Prince2 handbook, and they're mostly about the hard skills. Why? Because it is a very difficult subject to both write and talk about soft skills. Personally, I can tell you that today's discussion about soft skills has probably been the most difficult discussion so far that I did here on the Project Management Podcasts. Teaching soft skills, talking about soft skills, is like trying to carry water in your hands across a long distance. It'll slip through your fingers. Soft skills is something that comes from within you and not from without you. Soft skills are part of what is called your emotional intelligence. Soft skills are a sign of your maturity. They represent much of your past experience and very much about yourself as a person. Trainers can talk to you about soft skills, and they can guide you towards having good soft skills. But in the end, you are your own soft skills. Right, and that about wraps up our main section today about, soft skills. We move on and we'll be ending today's show with a look at my diary. Dear Diary, I haven't had a minute to write because so much has happened since I last opened this diary. Well, let's see. In my last entry, I talked about the fact that I had been faced with project creep, a new project management term that I coined. Unlike feature creep, project creep is different because people suddenly started adding more and more projects onto my load, so that I finally had 3 full-blown projects to manage. I ended that particular entry by saying, "That's it for this time, my dear diary. Next week, we'll talk about the 4th project that got dumped on my desk." Well, in the meantime, this 4th project has become about 90% of what I do. And incredibly enough, I've been able to actually stop work on 2 of my other projects. I mean, this never happens, right? They give you 10 more projects and expect you to deliver all of them on time, on budget, etc., etc. Not so this time. This means that I now have only 2 projects left, the one which takes about 90% of my time, and then there is a second one which takes about 30% of my time. Well, math has never been my strength here. My number 1 project got dumped on my plate about 8 weeks ago with the words, "Here, this is broken. Fix it." In the beginning, I was completely annoyed at how run down this project was. It was mismanaged. The customer was uninformed. There was no documentation, no schedule, and of course it was due for launch 4 weeks from when it was given to me. I grumbled and I moaned until one of my co-workers asked, "Didn't you want to be challenged?" This stopped me in my tracks. I pondered and let the thought sink in for a moment. Then I turned around and said, "Pam, have I told you what a great challenge this user maintenance project is for me?" Now, as funny as this response may have been at the time, I really, truly changed my attitudes towards this project within about 4 seconds following Pam's remark. I haven't grumbled once since then. Instead, I have accepted the challenge of this project and I'm trying to get it successfully delivered. In fact, this project has now become one of the top strategic projects of our division. Of course, there was absolutely no chance that I would have been able to deliver the project on the originally scheduled date in budget and with the features that the customers wanted. The software, in fact, was not in the least what the customer had at all expected. And I only realized this about a week before the launch when, after several unsuccessful attempts, I finally managed to get the customer on site and join us for a demo. During this demo, we talked about so many unanswered and new requirements that it became clear to all of us that this product is not usable for them in the current form. However, we went ahead and launched it anyway. This was mainly for political reasons, and we knew full well that nobody would be using the product. In fact, we didn't even provide a link for them, just to make sure that nobody could actually start the application. But we delivered something. Then I went to town. I created a high-level project plan. I began to document the requirements. I had meeting after meeting with the customer. I discussed requirements and implementation with our main architect. I pulled our team together. I established a release schedule showing which features will be available with which incremental release. I spoke to the customer almost daily on the phone, and I sent regular status updates. In short, I did everything possible to put this baby out of the dirt. Yet, I am not really too certain whether or not we will succeed here. The development on one core component has been promised for this coming Friday, and following that day, I have about 10 days to do a full-blown regression test and fix all bugs that have come up. I'm not certain if we have enough time for development of this new core component, nor if we have enough time for all the testing that needs to happen. And don't ask me what I will do if my developer gets sick or gets hit by the bus. Occasionally, I can feel my stomach tightening when I think of the repercussions if we cannot meet this particular deadline. But then I simply think about Pam's remark, and I enjoy the challenge. Now, here is what I have relearned on this project. First of all, don't grumble. Enjoy a challenge when it is handed to you on a silver plate. Second, the three most important words in real estate are location, location, location. And the three most important words in the recovery of a troubled project are communication, communication, communication. Without constant communication and building a rapport, both with the customer and the project team, I would not have been able to turn this project around. It is still not turned around all the way, but at least we have a turn signal going here. Well, that's it for this time, my dear diary. I'll write to you again after our release in the middle of February. And then we'll talk about the fact that I have lost one of my major resources on the project yesterday. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. In our next show, I hope to continue today's theme of soft skills, and you can hear an interview with Coach Moti Copez on how to be extremely attractive to almost anyone. And yes, you are still listening to the Project Management Podcast. As always, you can find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com, and you can send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this, an actual project management joke. Two men and a woman, a project manager, a software engineer, and a hardware engineer, are in Jamaica for a 2-week period helping out on a project. About midweek, they decide to walk up and down the beach during their lunch hour, and there they stumble upon a lamp As they rub the lamp, a genie appears and says, "Well, normally I would grant you 3 wishes, but since there are 3 of you, I will grant each one of you 1 wish." The hardware engineer went first. He said, "I would like to spend the rest of my life in a huge house in St. Thomas with no money, no worries, and surrounded by beautiful women who worship me." The genie granted him his wish and sent him off to St. Thomas. The software engineer went next. She said, "I would like to spend the rest of my life living in a huge yacht, cruising the Mediterranean, with no money, no worries, and surrounded by beautiful men who worship me." The genie granted her the wish and sent her off to the Mediterranean. Then it was the project manager's turn. "And what would your wish be?" asked the genie. "I want them both back after lunch," replied the project manager. With that, remember to close your mouth. Yes, 90% of a project manager's job is communication, but the biggest part of this communication is to be actively listening to what the people around you have to say. By listening, you learn how they think and feel, and this will help you learn about their needs that you will have to meet. Until next time.